people they had the coronavirus. Then these people go to a different testing site and they tell them they didn't have it. Look at how many times they have been exposed for manipulating documents to get paid money. Look at how many times nurses and doctors have come forth and said they are murdering people in the hospitals. You have to use your brain. They initially, when they said there was a coronavirus, they told people, go home for 14 days, quarantine, and you will be all right. But notice, the only people that are dying is the people that are hooking up to these ventilator machines. And then they're not giving people oxygen. If it's a respiratory problem, they're not giving them oxygen. They hook them up to a ventilator. And the ventilator is causing their lungs to collapse. And they're dying. And the doctors or nurses are telling you, hey, we're murdering people in the hospitals. That's your fault if you choose to go to that doctor instead of going to Dr. Jesus. Huh? It's the people that stay in a hospital. Y'all better get y'all class action lawsuit and begin to sue.
Pt2 News has learned this as some East Texas nursing home residents are being retested for COVID-19 because the first round of tests were wrong. KTK's Maya Owens has been looking into this all day long. She now joins us to show how this happened across the entire state. Mai.
That's right, Neil. The investigation started with 3 senior living facilities in the cities of Snyder, Cisco, and Eastland. Now it has expanded to an East Texas nursing home. For months now, nursing homes have been considered a hot spot for the coronavirus. Governor Abbott recently ordering mandatory COVID-19 testing at these locations. Now, a mix-up in results has caused a second round to be done.
We've been made aware that one of the labs that was utilized by this organization, by the 2 organizations, came back with a number of false positives.
Reports from long-term care facilities in Eastland, Cisco, Snyder, and East Texas, citing a high number of false positives, with residents lacking any symptoms, causing the state of Texas Health Department to investigate.
I have seen some tests that have come back negative, and it just seems very plausible that the patient does have or did have or is recovering from coronavirus.
An identified lab where the errors happened has stopped all testing until the problem is fixed, but has caused extra precautions to be taken.
Any type of medical testing you do, you always want to get the correct result. So, and the fact that they're false positives, that would create an issue. It's crucial that we get the correct information here.
The CDC reports false positive results can be difficult to identify, investigate, and resolve.
False positive is the worst kind of result, right? Because then you think, well, I've got the antibodies, I'm good to go. You're not, and so the tests aren't good enough right now.
Net Health suggesting if you do test positive but are showing no symptoms, to wait a couple of days and get tested again. Right now, investigators are not saying which East Texas nursing home has been affected by the false results, but health officials say it has not affected the positive case numbers here.
Exclusive investigation connected to COVID-19. We uncovered explosive claims against a hospital accused of creating phony COVID-19 test results. Tonight, Reveal investigator Andy Parati follows up with the hospital about these accusations.
Your job as a nurse is to be your patient's advocate. We are their only voice.
A critical care facility accused of manipulating COVID-19 test results. The allegations made by 4 nurses in court documents filed against Landmark Hospital in Athens. One former and one current nurse agreed to tell us how the hospital allegedly does it. These nurses say the hospital instructed staff to take samples from inside someone's throat, but send them to a lab that only tests nasal swabs, knowing the results would turn out negative. When you raised red flags, what was their response?
They would deny it.
Deny, deny, deny.
This nurse says when she properly administered a test, her boss retaliated.
Millions of diagnostic tests for COVID have flooded the market, with demand still outstripping supply. amid the pandemic. But now a new concern has emerged. Can you trust the results tonight? One Atlanta man doesn't know if he's positive or negative for the virus after multiple tests, including 2 on the same day. Here's 11 Alive Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe.
Sean Smith has COVID-19, and Sean Smith doesn't have COVID-19.
How could I have been positive and negative in the same day?
Smith has an underlying condition and needs surgery. Before the scheduled operation, Atlanta's Piedmont Hospital required a test for COVID-19.
Kind of got some bad news for you, and I was like, okay, we have to cancel your surgery. You tested positive for COVID.
After the positive result from the 8:15 a.m. test on May 2nd, Sean wanted another opinion. He went to the drive-up testing center at Georgia Tech run by CVS. At 12:08 p.m. that same day, CVS said his COVID-19 test came back negative.
Positive and negative 4 hours apart from each other.
Worse than getting no test at all is getting a test and getting an incorrect result.
Right now I'm sitting here worrying about, hey, am I at the beginning phases of COVID or am I at the ending phase of COVID? Then there's a possibility that, hey, I may not even have COVID,
Tonight, a Mount Juliet man says he has been told he's positive for COVID-19 by contact tracers. Just one problem, though. He has never been tested. Our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, found that the State Department of Health is now investigating.
The first call was expected. After all, Brock Balu's co-worker had tested positive for COVID-19, and he assumed a contact tracer would reach out. But he wasn't expecting what that tracer would say.
Yes, she specifically said, I'm looking at it right here, it says that you tested positive. We're just follow-up phone call to see how your symptoms are.
But Balu was confused because he hasn't even been tested yet. Is it possible that you just misheard her? You misunderstood what she said?
I'm 100% sure that's what she said because she's looking right at it and she specifically told me, I'm looking right here in the system, that you're showing positive.
Then 2 more days of calls with tracers saying the same thing.
She says, well, I'm still seeing that you're positive. It's just a courtesy call to check your symptoms.
Balu shared with News 4 Investigates the 3 calls he's received. All phone numbers come from the state health department. Balu's concern, if he is identified as positive in the state system, how accurate are the numbers they release every day?
I don't know what's going on, but it's wrong. And then I'm just another number when I'm not.
The state says they're now investigating, telling News 4 Investigates, quote, I can also tell you there is no concern with our count of cases in regard to our reporting of those who test positive. Those entries are based on lab results, not on information provided from the monitoring team. Balu says he's been told by the state that a third-party contractor made the calls to him, and they're now investigating to find out what happened. Jeremy Finley, News 4 Investigates.
Now, once Balu gets an explanation, we will be sure to follow up and let you know.
For a husband and father from Macomb County, getting an email indicating he had coronavirus was extremely troubling. But from there, he says he soon found out there was a problem with the testing.
Went there, morning, took about 5 minutes for the whole process, swiped. 24 hours later, you get the emailed results, find out, you're positive for COVID-19.
Last week, Chris Fett says he visited this Rite Aid location at 21 Mile Road and Romeo Plank for a drive-up test for coronavirus. He says he left there feeling good about the experience until the next day when he got a result of testing positive. But some checking with health professionals and further follow-up revealing another twist.
They sent out another email asking you for your verification, and then all of a sudden the results changed. And it said you're negative, test results were negative.
Negative, just as Chris's family had hoped. But still questions remained about how this could happen. Chris telling us a mistake with the test kits was the reason he was given. He's now sharing his story to encourage others to be thorough and to double check with a secondary doctor if you've had a similar situation.
You got a wife and 2 kids at home, and I'm in healthcare, and they're hearing that. Yeah, they were nervous.
Chris says he is very grateful to be healthy. In the meantime, we have reached out to Rite Aid and are waiting to hear back. Simon Shaquette, 7 Action News.
Because I said that there is only one disease. The mucous membrane has been compromised. And wherever that compromise has taken place, a disease will be present. The judge said, example, I said, Your Honor, if someone has sinusitis, what is obstructing the nasal passage? She said mucus. And where there's mucus in the bronchial tubes, what they call that disease? Bronchitis. And when you have pneumonia, what covers the lungs? She said mucus. When the judge said mucus, 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 Dr. Victor Herbert, who was in defense of the state, he jumped up and said in a very angry way, and what about AIDS? And what about AIDS? You and your one disease theory. The judge said to me, do you have a response? I said, yes. To begin with, Your Honor, I never rely on theory. You see, I have never been to school. You never been to school? I said, no, ma'am. So you see, I would be a poor candidate to rely on a theory. I don't even know what is a theory. I don't believe in anything. Either I know or I don't know. About what I said in reference to disease, I know that it doesn't fall in the category of a theory. It is a fact. It is reality. My most humble and distinguished Dr. Victor Herbert is asking me, what about AIDS if disease is the result of mucus? Where is the mucus? It's in the skin, the blood, the lymphatic system, which makes up the immunological system. That is where you find the mucus. That is the cause of AIDS, not a virus. A virus simply does not exist.
It's a shame when Jesus has said, greater works shall you do. The best thing that you can do as a so-called believer is go in quarantine, hide in a house. That shows the level of your faith. Now, I'm not knocking you because that's where you are. But at the same time, don't try and ostracize or look at me like I'm got the devil inside of me. No, I'm full of power and the Holy Ghost. If you know somebody that got the corona disease, come find me. You can find me. I'm at 1800 Phoenix Boulevard the majority of my day. I'll lay hands on them and you can see a demonstration of God's power. Huh? If your local doctor ain't working, just bring him over. I got a doctor. Yes, he sits high and he looks low. Glory be to God.
Passport Ireland is created to protect our society and our economy. Built in Ireland by the RockU Group, the system uses the very best COVID-19 testing, combined with the latest mobile technologies. Health Passport Ireland is powered by proven and validated systems, allowing us all to take safer steps in our return to our normal way of life. Here's how it works. With Health Passport Ireland, everyone can now be tested for COVID-19 at any time, which helps to protect you, your family, our jobs, and our economy. Your COVID-19 test will be performed with highly accurate serological or swab tests. Your test is performed by a medical professional. After your COVID-19 test, an authorised healthcare administrator creates your Health Passport Ireland account. Your login details will be emailed to you immediately with a link to download your Health Passport mobile app. The authorised healthcare administrator securely updates your COVID-19 test results in your Health Passport. Once activated, you can easily display your COVID-19 status on your mobile. Your Health Passport can be scanned if you wish, which helps protect those around us. Your COVID-19 status will efficiently display as green, amber or red, dependent on your test results. This allows us to go about our daily activities in a safer way. We can all use Health Passport Ireland in many ways, such as travel, hospitality, education, healthcare, construction, offices, entertainment, visits and much, much more. Naturally, the validity of your COVID-19 test will expire over time, so an automatic reminder will be sent when it's time to be tested again. Your status will move to amber when your test period has expired.
First, ask yourself, where did the virus start? We know that they say the virus started in China, in Wuhan. But guess what? This is what you didn't know. Over in China, for years now, they have been openly harvesting organs of people. The Chinese people over there have been crying, saying, stop, somebody help us. This is what you're not hearing on your local news. These people have been crying out, help us. They're harvesting our organs. But little did you know, who owns America? Who owns the majority of farmland here in America? Who's responsible for feeding you? You know how Malcolm X said the chickens came home to roost, huh? Listen to this. If America is in debt to China, let me ask you a question. Do you really love those of color? Huh? No, sir. You better do the numbers. You know how many people that are missing? Black men, black women, black children. They're now going to harvest the organs of those they told America, pay up. Give us the organs of those that you hold over there to build the country. Those that make America great. We want their organs. You better do the math. Numbers don't lie. Look at what happened to Henrietta Lacks. Go do your studies. Go do your research.
After months of independent investigation, the 7-person China Tribunal panel, which was initiated by the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China, delivered its final findings in June.
For over a decade, the People's Republic of China has stood publicly accused of acts of cruelty and wickedness that match the cruelty and wickedness of medieval torturers and executioners.
It stated, with certainty, that in China, forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience has been practiced for a substantial period of time. The report underscored that there were extraordinarily short waiting times for organs to be available for transplantation, and numerous websites advertised hearts, lungs, and kidneys for sale, suggesting an on-demand industry. The organs of members of marginalized groups detained in Chinese prisons and labor camps are unwillingly organ harvested. Most affected is a spiritual minority, the Falun Gong, who have been persecuted for rebuffing state atheism and adhering to a Buddhist-centric religious philosophy grounded in meditation and compassion. Witness testimonies provided to the tribunal paint the picture of a callous trade, often performed when the victims are still alive.
On January 27, 2009, 4 of my family members went to see my father at the labor camp in Chongqing. When we talked with him, his mental and physical health were completely normal. On January 28th, about 3:40 p.m. the next day, someone from the Xishanping labor camp called saying that my father had died at about 2:40 p.m. Her family members were taken to the Shijialiang funeral home by police cars. There were 3 slots in the freezer of the funeral home. My dad had been placed in the middle slot on the second freezer shelf. My sister touched my father's face and found that his lip was still warm. She yelled, "Dad, Dad, my dad is still alive, he's not dead." We immediately pulled my dad's body out and put him on the ground. We wanted to check his body. Everyone touched him. His body was still warm. Several dozen people were there. One of them said, "It's no use making the phone call. The officers are here already. They won't come." My brother asked, "How could a dead person still be warm after being frozen for more than 7 hours?" When we started to unbutton his clothes and check his body to see if there was anything wrong, each of us was picked up by 4 people and forcibly removed from the morgue. On February 8th, they called and told us that my father had been autopsied and then cremated. In his autopsy report, it said that 3 of his ribs were broken and all of his organs had been removed. My father was still alive and his body was still warm. How could you remove his organs? Without our family's consent, how could you just cremate him? We hired lawyers to sue the perpetrators and petitioned the higher authorities to seek justice for my father. This has been a long...
Love, it is you, me, and nothing but the numbers. And tonight's number, America, is 1.5 million. Yes, indeed, it is true. A New York Times report indicated that 1.5 million African-American men are missing in the United States.
And 1.5 million black men are missing in America. Their calculations revealed the, quote, more than 1 out of every 6 black men who today should be between 25 and 54 years old have, quote, disappeared from daily life.
Shotzi, the model.
That's Ryan Singleton, a young aspiring model. His story begins right here in Atlanta, where he was raised by his mom.
Somewhere between 3rd and 4th grade, he figured out that his initials of his name, RTS, backward was STR, which meant star. So he started then making himself into a star.
In the fall of 2010, Ryan left Atlanta to pursue his dreams of modeling in New York. 74 days later, his mom received another call, this one from investigators who found Ryan's body.
She said, ma'am, Ryan didn't have any organs. He didn't have any eyes, he didn't have a heart, he didn't have any lungs, he didn't have any liver, and he didn't have any kidneys. I said, what? That sounds like somebody took my son's organs and sold them on the black market.
We did not sign up for this. I knew she had to have an autopsy, but this is like remove her, remove this, She was 10 years old.
Rebecca Villarreal has questions.
Preserve each lung. What?
It's about what happened to her adopted granddaughter after she died. 4 days after Elena Castilla died, this memo was sent to the doctor who would perform her autopsy, giving instructions to harvest Elena's organs.
Who are these monsters? These are monsters. Who are these people? I didn't sign no papers. I didn't sign for them to disassemble.
In the letter, signed by Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Sam Andrews, it instructs the doctor to preserve the brain, remove the cervical spine, eyes, and lungs, among other things.
Today in Washington, D.C., more than a dozen teenagers have been reported missing, all of them Black or Latino. These are just some of their faces we're showing. There was an emotional town hall last night. Members of the community spoke out, telling their city leaders they're afraid for their families because of what they view as an apparent spike in the number of missing kids. Sadly, though, for that community, the chief of police told the crowd that this is far from a new problem.
The disturbing fact is that we do have that many kids that go missing in our city, and it's been that way for a long time.
That desperate search for missing teens in Washington, D.C., nearly a dozen Black and Latina girls reported missing in recent days, and authorities are now trying to raise awareness. ABC's Lindsay Davis is in Washington with the very latest on this story. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Amy. This is a storyline that primarily gained traction online, and there are those in social media who say that Tom Brady's missing jersey got more coverage than these missing girls. Those teens are among 38 people in total now listed as missing. Some of them described as critically missing on D.C.'s Metropolitan Police site, many of them young Blacks or Latino teenage girls.
Any child gone missing, it should be known that there's a possibility this child could be home.
Hundreds of concerned citizens packed an emotional town hall meeting Wednesday night, worried all these vanished teens represent a disturbing spike in crime, and question if Black and Latino girls are being targeted.
We can't go nowhere by ourselves. We can't do nothing because we have to get worried about somebody trying to take us.
But city officials explain there aren't more missing teens, there's just more awareness. Part of a new effort by a police department often accused of overlooking cases of missing people of color.
I just implemented a process to ensure that all critical missing persons receive the same level of police service and media attention.
According to D.C. police, all 38 people currently missing walked away voluntarily, and 4 of the 8 in the initial tweet that garnered so much attention have since been located. But the concern is that those who are still missing may now be in real danger.
When they go missing, guess what? You have a child out there, and there are people in our community that will prey on those children.
The concern is if authorities don't publicize their cases, they could end up like 8-year-old Relisha Rudd. Until a few weeks ago, she was the only missing person listed on the department site after she vanished 3 years ago this month. Her mother spoke to a local station at the time.
Come back home to your mother safely and unharmed, and I love you.
Seen here just days before her disappearance, many felt Relisha's case didn't get enough coverage. She has never been found.
That community had no idea that this was an issue that was going on in their own backyard. And by the police being transparent and putting out all missing person cases, it brings about awareness.
And many of these cases don't end up rising to the level of an Amber Alert, and that's something that some in the black community point to as a sign that when black children go missing, they simply don't get the same attention and coverage as when white children go missing. But the police chief here points out that under the current guidelines, an Amber Alert can only be issued if it's believed that the child has been abducted or that they're in imminent danger of injury or death.
100 black men and women who have been reported missing in Hampton Roads.
Tonight, an organization is working to make sure those faces are not forgotten. Marcella Robertson has the story.
These are the faces.
He went missing on November 11th, 2015.
Of missing mothers and daughters.
Somebody just helped me find my child.
Fathers, brothers, and sisters.
She went missing January the 7th. 2012.
40% of all missing people in the U.S. are African American.
I need y'all to wake up. I need y'all to stop getting so into social media and stop being so unconscious of what's going on. Check this out. 75,000 black women are missing right now. That's a fact. Look it up. Recently, there was a man by the name of Arthur Radburn. He got caught selling used human body parts. Admitted to it, got caught, everything, the whole nine. Now check this out. There was an investigation going on. Everything was, a big controversy and all that. But I want you to check this article I came across. And what they're doing is now, transgender men, they're trying to get them to be able to have babies of their own. So what they're doing is they're taking the uterus from women and they're transplanting it into transgender men so that they can have babies. It's a proven method that is going on. Where do you think they're getting their uteruses from? Where do you think they're getting it from? You think a woman's going to willingly give away her uterus? Huh? Why are black women missing? Why are there more black women missing than any other race? They're using black women for this. Think about it. You got to wake up and see what's going on. This man made $13 million and only was sentenced to 9 years and had no remorse for what he did. And in court, his statement was, I know what I did was barbaric, but it was for a bigger reason. I want you to think about that. There's higher people up pulling these strings. You got to stop being so unconscious and stop sexualizing yourself. Protect your daughters, protect yourself, and be conscious of what's going on. Because you're under attack. The music and the media has you so focused on using black men, has you so focused on trying to become something other than what you're supposed to be, which is queens. You have to reprogram your mind and wake up.
There are thousands of children missing in America. You can help bring them home. To find out more, visit Missing Kid.
A black woman who worked on a tobacco farm before World War II. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. In February 1951, Lacks was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cervical cancer at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. Unbeknownst to her, a sample of her cells was sent to a tissue lab. A cell biologist isolated and then multiplied it.
As it turned out, the cells did not die, as would normally be the case. And in fact, they were doubling at this phenomenal rate. They would just keep replicating.
Although these weren't the first human cells to be grown in a lab, this was the first time they survived more than a few days. This huge medical breakthrough allowed researchers to conduct experiments on human cells outside of the body. The cells were given the name Gila, a combination of the first two letters of Henrietta Lack's first and last names. Although they carry her name, Lax, who passed away at the young age of 31, would never know that her cells had been extracted for scientific research. Lack's family members only learned that her cells had been harvested 2 decades after her death. A Rolling Stone journalist contacted them and revealed that Lax's cells had been duplicated and then used for research by countless scientists. The article called the work a critical tool in medical research. While HeLa cells have played a crucial role in scientific advancement, the fact that Lax herself never consented to the research means that her cells were used unethically. What's more, her case was part of a long tradition of the use of African American bodies without their consent for medical and scientific research, dating back to slavery and including the infamous Tuskegee syphilis study.
It was part of a culture of not respecting the core humanity of black folk and how they were being treated either by medical researchers or even by physicians.
Despite the ethical debate around the harvesting of Lax cells, scientists have continued to use the immortal HeLa cell line all over the world. Research involving polio vaccines, chemotherapy, HIV/AIDS, cloning, and IVF have all benefited from the HeLa cell line.
Like it or not, people, this is organ harvest season. The reason why you're not able to see your loved ones in the hospital is not because they have corona or some COVID-19, but it's simply because they want the organs of your loved ones. That is a big business. Do the research. Y'all know they're doing it over there in New York, what's called Hart's Island. Major cities, y'all already know Chicago, Detroit. They already busted a couple people. Y'all do the research. I love you all. Stay safe. Hey, share this video. Get this information out there, and I got more stuff to come. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video. Hey, let's not waste the information. If you have love toward one another, spread the information. God bless you. I love you.